Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. As part of your strategy session today, we'll be discussing a very important subject, which is art and culture. We'll be discussing the prelims strategy in this video. We have a separate strategy for mains. When we talk about prelims itself, the demands are different from art and culture vis-a-vis mains itself. And when we talk about the larger history as a subject in UPSC, we have ancient, medieval, art and culture, modern India, world history, and post-independence. Within this, there are certain peculiarities. World history and post-independence is specific to mains. Art and culture in modern India is PT plus mains, which is prelims and mains. And ancient and medieval only come in PT, or which is prelims. You need to understand one thing, which is that you cannot do art and culture without ancient medieval, because the general timeline of ancient and medieval becomes the base on which art and culture should be understood. So you need to understand one thing, which is that this is one set itself wherein the basic timeline, Maurya, post-Maurya, Gupta, Pala, Pratihara, you need to know who these dynasties are, what are their peculiarities, what is their timeline, so that you can understand art and culture. There's a major mistake which a lot of students do, which is to open Nitin Singhania, for example, without even understanding R.S. Sharma or Satish Chandra or covering ancient India or medieval India. So you need to understand that there's a base on which art and culture works. Now let's understand what the syllabus says. So we know that it is a very significant portion of our syllabus because it is coming in mains and PT both. So it will be suicidal to leave art and culture. So you have to cover art and culture. So what does the syllabus say? Unfortunately, not a lot, which is that it says history of India and the Indian national movement, which means that the open-endedness of the syllabus itself means anything can come in art and culture, and it is only specific to the Indian national movement where the syllabus is very, very generically saying that yes, we want something like this from the questions. So because it says history of India, everything is on the table except for world history. So that ways art and culture becomes important because it helps you understand ancient medieval better, and at the same time ancient medieval helps you understand art and culture better, and at the same time this whole set is a set of subjects which you cannot ignore because close to 10 to 15 questions can come from this area. So let's do one thing. Let's look at the pattern, how many questions have come through. Then we will look into the syllabus, and then we'll also understand the basic themes which are important. Then we will go on to the strategy of coverage itself. So syllabus itself does not say anything. It is open-ended. When it is open-ended, it means that everything is on the table itself. And now we can look at the pattern. So the pattern is between 2021 and 2015, we have on an average 6 to 7 questions coming through from an high point of 8 and 10 to now 5 and 4. The point is at least 10 to 12 marks. And as high as 14 marks is on the table. And as you know, in prelims, every mark matters, which means that even 1 marks is very, very important because that would mean you clearing the cutoff and not clearing the cutoff. So these 5 to 6 questions cannot be ignored. If you understand the fact that out of the 100, we only have to do 80 questions in the exam itself, it means that 20 questions you're not doing because they're quiz questions or at the level of the optional. You can leave 1 question here, which would be maybe a peculiar or very difficult question. So at least 10 marks is at your disposal. And when you add ancient medieval to it, it becomes a whole set of 20 to 25 marks, which is actually a very significant chunk of the cutoff. So we can't ignore art and culture, obviously. If you ignore it here, you have to do it in mains. There you have at least 1 to 2 questions coming through. So again, 15 to 30 marks are there again. So as a subject, you cannot ignore art and culture. Very, very important. So the pattern itself tells us that it's a significant portion. Nobody ever has cleared the exam whilst ignoring art and culture as a subject itself. So let's look at the nature of the questions, because then we can understand the pattern, what are the themes which are important, and then also understand the way to cover it. So we have different type of questions coming through. The nature of questions we are trying to understand, because that allows us to understand the larger perspective in which we have to cover it. So We have questions such as this one, which is a very easy question, but also representative. Which one of the following pairs does not form the part of 6 systems of Indian philosophy? It's a question from 6 schools of philosophy. Mimamsa Vedanta, Nyaya Vaisheshika, Lokyata Kapalika, and Sankhya and Yoga. Here, if you know basics, you can easily get this answer because it is Lokyata or the Charvakism, which is actually an unorthodox school. And I don't technically care what is Kapalika, which is again an offshoot of Lokyata. But because by knowing that Lokyata is nothing but Charvakism and the others are actually the 6 schools of philosophy, we get the answer as C. This question would be an easy question. If you leave it, then you are technically leaving out a very easy question, and it's a crime doing that. Over and above that, it is based on very basic understanding. Don't even need to know the philosophy itself. So it's actually a very representative type of question which comes through. Another type of question which we see is, this is a very standard thing, art form vis-a-vis state. If you can learn this for most of the themes, you will automatically be able to cover most of the questions. So consider the following pairs. The pairs question is very common. Garba, Gujarat. Mohiniyattam, Odisha. Yashgana, Karnataka. Which of the following is correctly matched? Here again, it is easy. Why is it easy? Because these are very known art forms. Garba comes from Gujarat, very standard thing. In our popular culture, it is there. Yashgana is from Karnataka. Yes, again true. But the biggest catch is Mohiniyattam does not come from Odisha. The classical dance of Odisha is Odissi. Can't be more easier. So it should be Kerala. So the answer is 2 is incorrect. So the answer becomes 1 and 3 only. This is again a very basic question. Basic factual question. Does not need any depth. And this is again a question which you should not be missing in the exam, irrespective of anything. It has to be done irrespective of anything, because these questions are just based on art form state, theatre state, martial art state, dance state. This is something basic, and I'll tell you how to cover it effectively. Then we have another type of question which would be a little bit more difficult. It is comparative, but for this you need to have an understanding of ancient plus art and culture. And this is why I tell you that art and culture needs ancient and medieval. For example, what is or are common to the 2 historical places such as Ajanta, known as Ajanta, and Mahabalipuram? Both were built in the same period. Both belong to the same religious denomination. Both have rock-cut monuments. Now, this question cannot be answered if you don't know where Ajanta is placed, where Mahabalipuram is placed. So, Ajanta is part of the post-Mauryan period, and Mahabalipuram is Pallava. So, it would be Gupta, post-Gupta. Now, in a way, you need to also know the religious denomination, which again you can't know if you have not done ancient in this regard. It says both were built in the same period. By just knowing that Ajanta comes in Maurya, post-Maurya, and Pallava comes in post-Gupta, you automatically get this option as incorrect. So, 2 options go away. Now, either 3 is correct or none of the above is correct. The point is, by this, we are automatically able to eliminate the second option. Both were from the same religious denomination? No, they were not. The Ajanta is fully Buddhist, and this is what is called Hinduistic, or what we call as Brahmanical. So, we have to decide if both have rock-cut monuments. This is the art and culture part. Yes, they have. The answer is 3 only. Both have rock-cut. This has rock-cut caves, and Mahabalipuram is known for the Pancharath, which is the rock-cut raths. So, did I need subsidiary knowledge of ancient? Yes, I did. Can I ignore ancient? No, you can't, because you will not be able to eliminate the first option, which automatically gives you the answer. So this question shows you how there is a relationship between the basics of ancient along with art and culture. Then we also have questions which play with words, which is that in the context of cultural history of India, a pose in dance and dramatics called the Tribhanga has been a favorite of Indian artists from ancient time till today. Which of the following best describes this pose? One leg is bent and the body is slightly but oppositely curved at waist and neck. Facial expression, hand gestures, makeup are combined to symbolize certain epics or historical characters. Movement of body, face and hands are used to express oneself or to tell a story. A little smile, slightly curved waist, certain hand gestures are emphasized to express the feeling of love and eroticism. This is question of application of knowledge, which means that you just need to understand what is the difference between Tandava and Lasya. Tandava is the movement part of a dance without expression, and Lasya is the part of expression. So when we talk about Tribhanga pose, it is a part of Tandava, which means it has to be physical movement, can't have anything related to emotions, which is facial expression. So see one thing, facial expression, face, little smile. Automatically 3 options get eliminated because there is a Lasya aspect to it, which is related to expression. And it is only the first option, which is only talking about a move, a physical movement, which is the Tandava part. Again, this is out of basic books. It's just an application-based question, does not need extraordinary knowledge. So if you look at the question itself, it is not difficult. It's just based on application. So, based on this nature of questions and the syllabus itself and the pattern itself, we can identify the following themes as important. Some are very specific to mains also, but some are very, very specific to prelims also. And I'll tell you that. Which are the ones which are totally specific to prelims. So, arc and architecture from ancient to medieval till modern also is important. This is something in which PT and mains both you will get a question, and we'll discuss these in more detail about the mains aspect when we are in the video related to mains. Painting, again, ancient, medieval, modern, PT and mains, very, very important. Bhakti Sufi, we got a question in 2021 itself. So it is again a question in which you will get PT and mains aspect. Sculpture, the schools of art, their impact, extremely important, PT plus mains. But here, these topics are actually conceptual plus factual. So then that is why they're able to make a question in mains, because they have a conceptual part to it. Classical dances, again, PT plus mains, conceptual aspect, Lasya Tandava. Literature and foreign travelers, again, is something in which we are getting PT and mains questions, and conceptual and factual both. Philosophy and Buddhism, Jainism. These are the ones which are PT plus mains topics in which you need to have conceptual clarity, because statement-based questions will come. Statement-based questions. On the other hand, when we talk about the next set, which is theatre, puppetry, intangible heritage, martial arts, numismatics, science and technology, and festivals. These are things which are just specific to PT, wherein the prelims questions will mostly deal with not the conceptual, but the factual. So in most of these topics, if you know the art form and the state, you automatically will be able to answer 95% of the questions. Where does this theatre come from? Where does this puppetry come from? Where does the intangible heritage come from? Martial arts, numismatics. Remember, here you also have to understand, you need to know if the input is worth the output. Meaning, if you are learning close to 500 facts and one question comes through, it's not worth it. Because then you're learning too much to give one question. For example, folk dances, folk music. Too many of them, one question, that too indirectly. Not worth it. You need to know when the input is worth the output. That way you will be able to easily cover these. And these are the basic important themes related to art and culture in that regard. So now that we know the themes, we know the syllabus, and we also know that the questions are important, cannot ignore it. Let's talk about the sources. Both the 6th class and the 7th class new NCRTs actually have 1 to 2 chapters related to art and culture, in which they're talking about Hampi, they're talking about Vijayanagara state, they're talking about the Mughal Empire, they're talking about Red Fort. So there are certain chapters in these books which are important. Other than this, the two main books are actually the NCERT Class 11th Fine Arts, which is an introduction to Indian art, part 1, part 2, both important. And the most important book, Nitin Singhania, Indian Art and Culture. This is the basic book. And if you are able to cover Nitin Singhania, you will not even need the NCERTs, but NCERTs are important. The point is, this is the most important book. Very, very, very important. Cannot leave Nitin Singhania. You can go to CCRT, you can go to any website. It will not give you the coverage and the data which Nitin Singhania is going to give you. So you have to use Nitin Singhania irrespective of anything. So the sources are very, very significant. The sources are based on the NCERTs. No need to read any old NCERT. Don't have to go into that. You only have to make sure that you effectively cover Nitin Singhania. So now the $1 million question is, what is the strategy for coverage? So here again, see, you need to cover ancient and medieval first, because that gives you a foundation. We have a separate video for that. How do you cover ancient and medieval for prelims? That itself will create the timelines and basic concepts. What is the religious development, in which period it falls. These are things which you need for ancient medieval. Once you've done that, you will go through the NCERTs again, just for foundational purposes, so that you have basic conceptual clarity. So the topics related to mains are going to be covered through this conceptual clarity. But for PT, Nitin Singhania will be your staple. Nitin Singhania needs to be covered in a very, very effective way. So the next question which you will ask me is, sir, do we make notes? The answer to that is, from NCERT, you make notes and you note down the basic facts. However, there is no point making notes out of Nitin Singhania, because Nitin Singhania is already written in a way like a notes. So you just have to do one thing, which is that you make sure that you know what areas to learn, which I've already told you by identifying the important themes. Now, Nitin Singhania, how you then cover, which is the next question, is you create a timetable in which every day 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening, you will cover a factual part of Nitin Singhania. In the sense that today I will learn martial arts, and even if the list is too long, I will cover it, but in pieces. Meaning, if it's a list of 10 or 15, 5 I will learn today. So in the morning, I will learn it. And in the evening, I will check if I remember it and revise. This will help you in learning plus revising as you go on. And more than that, because you only have to learn the states and the art form, you can also have another strategy, which is to paste these important martial arts, theaters and all on your table or on your walls. This will give you some visual referencing also. But the point is, if you have more than 365 days, this can be 30 and 30 minutes. But in a disciplined way, if you are going to cover the basic art forms, there are not a lot of them, then you will be able to become a master of art and culture. So when we talk about the coverage of art and culture itself, it has to be done in a systematic way. I always use an analogy, you will find it elsewhere also, that art and culture and history is like a pizza. You need to divide it systematically to eat it in the right way. If you try to gobble it all together, you will not be able to do that. Sustained revision and learning over 15 minutes every day, 30 minutes if you have more time, will help you in the larger context easily. So we know the basics, we know the syllabus, we know the sources, and now you know the strategy. One thing which I will say before we end this session is that please create interest. At the end of the day, art and culture is your own art and culture. And because in the interview, you will get questions related to hobbies, you will get questions related to your state's art and culture. So in that way, even in the interview, your interest will take you far. In the sense that if you are able to create only 2% or 5% interest in your own culture, you will be able to understand everything very, very quickly. Use videos, use visual referencing, use images to learn art and culture. So with this, I would like to end this session. Thank you so much. I hope that now you have a clarity over how to cover art and culture for prelims. The key aspect is discipline and 15-minute strategy. Have to systematically divide everything. Nitin Singhania cannot be ignored. Thank you so much. I will see you in another video. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.